Good morning, everyone. Quick question for you. What is this? Let me tell you, it's awesome. One Sunday, while scrolling through the r/games page on Reddit, I came across a post for the weekly Indie Showcase talking about a game called Pedigree Tactics. I have a mental condition I don't talk about often, wherein if I see the word tactics anywhere in game media, my brain glitches and thinks, oh, maybe there's a new Final Fantasy Tactics. You need to click that immediately. And so instinctively, I clicked the link. What I saw was not Final Fantasy Tactics. At first, I was confused. Colorfully manic and bizarre, the art style is definitely eye-catching. Take that how you will. From the trailer, you likely had the same thought that I did. The same question that I asked at the beginning. What is this? Because I guarantee you've never seen anything like it before. The initial reception to the trailer follows the same thought, though many were more critical of the art style. The top comment on one of the first reveal threads reads, "The visuals look like one of those meme games. I believe there's a gem beneath all the shtick. Hopefully, you'll have the budget for a redesign." Then another commenter, Nacho HK, really steps up to voice his opinion, beginning his comment with, "Pretty much no one will pay for a game that looks like this. I'm sorry." Then doubling down in another later comment, "I don't think you understand. It's not just that the character drawings look amateur, it's that the environment art is a completely different kind of bad than the creature art. It clashes horribly, it's painful to look at. If you are doing this just for yourself, then great. I'm glad you achieved what you wanted to. Genuinely. But just because you had fun and met your personal goals by acting out a pretend lightsaber fight in your garage doesn't mean that you should be filming it and putting it online." Wow. Harsh. Even another commenter in a later thread echoes a similar sentiment. "You can't be serious, lol. Excellent." My curiosity was piqued, of course. At the time, I didn't have a gaming PC, and there were and still are very, very, very few videos about the game anywhere online. As the literal red-headed stepchild of my family, I knew there had to be something these people were missing. So I bought a PC and the game and dove in. So let's talk about Pedigree Tactics. The ugly, amazing game that everyone hates, and one of the most fun, unique, and memorable gaming experiences of my life. Pedigree Tactics is a monster-breeding, turn-based strategy RPG created by the single developer, Zerokima, releasing under the umbrella of their studio, Schnauzer Studios. Yes, it's written that way, and every time I read it, I have to do a silly voice. I don't know why I'm this way. Medical professionals the world over are baffled. If all those descriptors mean nothing to you, imagine Pokemon mixed with something like my aforementioned sweetheart, Final Fantasy Tactics, a handful of Dragon Quest, and by Zerokima's own words, some Shin Megami Tensei. Each battle is 3 versus 3, taking place at various venues across the hand-drawn world map, and each battle is over relatively quickly. Even more so if you're on an easy difficulty, or enable some of the optional settings in the menu. A benefit to this I want to point out is, if you only have 10 minutes to game, that's plenty of time to boot the game, clear a battle or two, save and quit, all without feeling rushed. In my first session with the game, which lasted about 40 minutes, I cleared the first 10 battles. That figure includes the time spent grinding the first few stages, to gain levels and also see some of the new monsters that appear when you revisit cleared areas, like the ever-legendary Escapegoat. That's right. Despite my ever-increasing age and ever-decreasing amount of time left on this mortal plane, I violated my own gaming code of ethics and spent a respectable amount of time in Pedigree Tactics voluntarily grinding. Because it's not an inconvenience. Leveling up happens quick, and near the end of the game you unlock an experience multiplier slider in the settings that enables you to do it even faster. From Newborn, a monster will jump to about level 10 in 1 or 2 battles. 10's an important number in Pedigree Tactics, but we'll get back to that shortly. The way you collect monsters and grow your army is painfully simple, and something I wish more games did. However, despite being simple, it adds an additional layer of required strategy to battles. Plainly put, the last of the opposing monsters to die is recruitable. Thus, at the end of almost every battle, you accumulate a new teammate. No minigames, no RNG, no consumable items to buy, no holding down on the D-pad and mashing B because you read a rumor online that it helps catching Mewtwo. Simply put, you kill it, it's yours. So you're saying, okay JT, You get a bunch of monsters really quick, but you can only use 3 in a battle. Won't you quickly just be flooded with monsters and have to deal with the headache of an ever-increasing roster? Yes, but mostly no. Because at level 10, you gain the ability to fuse a captive monster's soul, ripping it from the flesh and melding it with the soul of another monster you've enslaved.
Join hands, unleash the power of our soul.
This creates a new kind of abomination, which you then gleefully unleash upon the 7th circle of this Crayola hell. Truly, there is no salvation for the souls of the damned. Some of the soul fusion monsters are pretty cool. Most of them sorta make sense, I guess. Like, yeah, a lizard knight and a monkey do kinda combine to make an angry dog. Works for me. While some are cool, some are also really funny. I mixed my starter, Flex Rex, with a watermelon, 2 words, and my result was the impeccable Geckold. Geckold. Say that aloud. It's hilarious. I laughed like an idiot when that popped up on my screen. Remember when I said this carries the DNA of Dragon Quest? I didn't mean the combat. I meant the humor. One benefit of Soul Fusion is that it raises the maximum level of the creature created and also allows you to learn the abilities of both base monsters, endlessly adding a new power ceiling to reach for. This leads to my only real complaint about the game. You can only know 10 abilities, so whenever you learn a bunch at once, you have to tediously sort through a long list that isn't organized in any real way. So I grinded literally about 90 seconds, and my Geckold was level 10. Buff, sleek, and sexy enough to be soul-bound, with another monster to create the iconic Lizard Wizard. Once King Gizzard, my Lizard Wizard, leveled up even a little, he learned the Fire Beam ability, which sometimes wins an entire battle by itself. Let me remind you, this is 17 minutes into the game. In total, there are 23 maps you battle through in order following the plot. And let's talk about that plot. How in a lot of modern games, you boot into the menu and you select New Game, then you wait a minute, and then there's a 12-minute cutscene where you can't do anything, you can't skip it, and then it has you walk like 10 feet, and then it loads another cutscene, and you still can't do anything, and you can't skip that cutscene either. And then it's like an hour before you can get into the game and play. Yeah, Pedigree Tactics isn't that. There's a plot, but it's basic, and it quickly gets out of your way. At the beginning and end of most plot battles, you'll get a few quick dialogue boxes, usually of the protagonist exchanging quips and threats with the monsters, or occasionally getting a bit of a lore dump. It's in and out and doesn't linger. This is where a lot of the Dragon Quest humor comes through, and it's genuinely fun to start most of the battles chuckling to yourself. But when I say the plot is basic, I want to be clear that I'm not saying it's bad. The story serves as an appropriate vehicle and reasoning for moving through the world and doing the things you do. The first screen of the game mentions that the world is a cruel place ruled by a cruel lord for as long as anyone can remember. In desperate attempts to end his reign, you have undergone a ritual with your village that grants you the ability to commune with beasts and subjugate them for your aid. Okay, cool. I'm in. What's the point of Pokemon? To be the best? In Pedigree Tactics, you're breaking an endless cycle of world oppression. I'm in. Also, the hero's a ninja. I don't know why that is. But he is. Over Steam DMs, Zerokima and I chatted a lot about the game, but I didn't know that Steam wipes your DMs after 7 days and saves none of the chat history. I am a fool. But when talking about the plot, Zerokima said it served the purpose that was needed. While it would have been nice to have a more fleshed out plot, it wasn't necessary, so it was near the bottom of the priority list. Gameplay comes first. The plot relies on tropes, such as the chosen one you play and the great evil you're against, but that's fine. Across the 23 maps, you journey to find the great evil, you find it, you kill God, you go home. And the ending is a screen that just reads, "With the eldritch horror no longer threatening the land, your quest is complete. You have brought peace to the world and can finally return home for some well-deserved rest." And then the plot steps out of your way for the rest of your time with the game. You're left in free play to do whatever you want, whether it be filling out the full bestiary or just trying to get your lizard wizard to the max possible level for fun. Because, let's be honest, it is satisfying to wipe out the entire final boss battle with a single cast of Thunderstorm. That's it! That's the plot of Pedigree Tactics. Ultimately unnecessary, but still a pleasant treat to have included. I respect that. It doesn't waste your time, and it doesn't try to awkwardly shoehorn in something that wouldn't bring any benefit. So, I mentioned at the beginning that Pedigree Tactics was made all by one person, Zerokuma, and I want to really talk about their experience making the game. The game is fantastic, and is fully enjoyable as a standalone experience without knowing anything about the developer or their struggles. All the monsters, all the maps, all the dialogue boxes, all the code, all the music, all the sounds, save for a few stock files, were made by Zerokuma. There's a nose enemy in the game that has a sneezing attack. That sneeze was Zerokuma, who couldn't find a fitting sound effect and decided to destroy his own sinuses for his art. Remember all the verbal vitriol at the beginning, relentlessly attacking the game because of the art style? Zerokuma did it all, by hand, having basically no prior art experience. They mentioned having an artist on board early on in development, but due to cost and creative differences, things didn't pan out. "I'm a programmer first, visual artist last," was a common reply to the hate. Even after more aggressive probing on, "Why would you release this to the general public? Are you stupid?" Zerokuma replied with a quote that was the first thing I wrote down when starting this video. "I'm a programmer, so I'm not worried about being held back professionally because it looks janky. That's rad. They're just a guy making the game that they want to play, that nobody else is making, and they simply don't care if it's not up to your standards or expectations." In an era of media where art styles are all trending towards photorealism and the highest fidelity possible, there's been a lot of neglect towards developing actual art styles, and Pedigree Tactics is a refreshing break from that. It has character, it's all unique, and as I've repeated to you and all of my friends ad nauseum, it's completely unlike anything you've ever seen. If you saw this on a store shelf, it would catch your attention. Have I mentioned that Zerokuma accomplished all of this while raising his son by himself? He's a single father and has been for seemingly the entire development period. Replying to a thread on r/GameDev about if it's possible to create games as a hobby between work hours and sleep, Zerokuma replied, "I just spent the time I would have spent playing games on making that instead. With work and child raising taking the majority of my time, that came out to like 10 to 15 hours a week, mostly on the weekends. And it took several years. You just have to keep working diligently. Every step forward is one less step you have to take until it's done." I was raised by a single father from a very young age, and growing up I saw firsthand the struggle of a man who suddenly finds his world upside down and has to keep it together while working full-time and raising a small child. Two of my favorite childhood memories are from when I was obsessed with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and my dad fashioned a Hylian shield out of the dome of a light fixture and the handle off of an old grill. Then he later spent his evenings making me a proper wooden sword, carving and sanding it down from a larger piece in our basement, all while working 40 to 50 hours a week at the Maytag factory and keeping us fed and taken care of. This was before internet banking. Do you know how many checks you had to write back in the day? That takes time. Zerokuma didn't even know how to play piano at the start of Pedigree Tactics development, saying, "I actually bought a $250 MIDI controller and used this as an excuse to learn some piano. All the music in the game was done by me." Have you ever learned an instrument just so your passion project can have nice ambiance? Some of the music tracks in the background of this video are from Pedigree Tactics even. Thank you, Zerokuma. The game launched on January 6th, 2023, and I'm genuinely happy to say that it currently has a positive rating on Steam. Over time, even the Reddit comments calmed the fuck down, and many came around, saying that the art style is cool, creative, and awesome. I agree. On Steam, the game sells for $5. It's only $5? That's right. Have you seen the price of a McChicken lately? Or forget that, have you seen the price of a hash brown lately? For less than 2 hash browns, you can get Pedigree Tactics and enjoy it literally infinitely longer than the potato pucks. It's also gone on sale for as little as $1 before. That's giving it away. There's also a free demo of the game available, but if it remotely interests you, I strongly advise you to just grab the game. As you may have guessed, Pedigree Tactics hasn't been a booming success, with one of the later sales figures I saw mentioned being around 200 copies in almost 2 years. My real intention in making this video is to hopefully get a few of you to check out the game, because I know for a lot of people it's something you wouldn't normally consider. I firmly believe this will one day be looked at as a cult classic, And I like to imagine this is the first of many, many YouTube videos talking about this overlooked gem that the mainstream audience remains unaware of. And you know, when I started making this video, I knew nothing about video editing. I knew the barest minimums of video capture from the bit of streaming I've done. But like Zerokuma making the game he wanted to play, I learned it all to manifest something I want to put out into the world. If it's a question of motivation, then you just have to want it bad enough to see it through to completion. It's hard, especially if stuff you're not good at. But better to release something you did yourself than to just not release it at all, right? If I can do it, you can do it. So here's my first video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for your time and take care. I'll see you next time.